The scream ripped through the office floor so violently that my vision blurred, my knees weakened, and my hand flew instinctively to my stomach. Because in that split second, I understood something no one else did. The person screaming wasn't supposed to be her. I stood frozen as the sound echoed again, raw and inhuman, like pain had found a voice and refused to let go. Somewhere beyond the glass walls and polished corridors, a body had hit the floor. Somewhere nearby, a life was unraveling in real time. And standing there, unable to move, I felt the cold certainty settle deep in my bones. Whatever was happening out there had been meant for me. My heart slammed so hard it felt like it was trying to escape my chest. My ears rang. The world narrowed to that sound, and the violent instinct roaring inside my head. Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't let anyone see you react. Then came chaos. Footsteps, shouting, chairs scraping, a voice screaming for help, another yelling to call an ambulance. The sterile calm of the executive floor shattered into panic, and still, I didn't move. Because fear wasn't the loudest thing inside me. Recognition was. I knew that scream. Not the voice, but the reason behind it. An agony like that doesn't come from accidents. It comes from betrayal. From something ingested. Something deliberate. Something prepared. My hand tightened against my abdomen as nausea surged. Not the gentle kind I'd grown used to, but a violent wave of terror. My breathing turned shallow. My pulse thundered in my ears. I felt suddenly exposed, like every secret I was carrying had become fragile glass. The door to my office burst open. Someone shouted my name. I didn't answer. Another scream tore through the air, closer this time, followed by the unmistakable sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. A body! I swallowed hard, bile burning my throat, and forced myself to walk forward. Each step slow, deliberate, like I was walking toward a truth I couldn't unsee. The hallway smelled wrong. Metallic. Acidic. Sharp. I rounded the corner, and the sight in front of me nearly dropped me to my knees. She was on the floor, convulsing. Blood soaked into the carpet beneath her like a spreading stain that refused to stop. Her hands clawed at her stomach. Foam bubbled at the edges of her mouth. Her eyes rolled back as if her body was trying to flee itself. People were screaming. Someone was crying. Someone else was on the phone with emergency services. And then I saw it. The overturned food container, lying on its side. Empty. My vision tunneled. My ears roared. That was when the final realization slammed into me with merciless clarity. If I hadn't refused that meal, if I hadn't pushed it away, that blood would have been mine. My baby would have been the one fighting for life on that floor. And just as that truth crushed the air from my lungs, I felt fingers clamp around my arm, hard, furious, accusing. A voice hissed in my ear, shaking with something far darker than panic. Why wasn't it you? That was the moment I knew my marriage wasn't broken. It was lethal. Why wasn't it you? The words sliced through me, low and venomous, not loud enough for anyone else to hear, but sharp enough to leave a wound. His fingers dug into my arm, nails biting through fabric, through skin, through every illusion I still clung to. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. Because if I did, I knew I'd see the truth in his eyes. And I wasn't ready for it yet. Around us, the hallway had dissolved into chaos. Someone was crying hysterically. Someone else kept shouting for towels, for water, for anything. The emergency operator's voice echoed faintly from a speakerphone, calm and detached, asking questions no one was answering clearly. The smell grew stronger, bitter, chemical, unmistakably wrong. I forced my arm free and finally turned to face him, my husband. His face was pale, but not with shock. His jaw was clenched, his eyes burning with something ugly and impatient, like the situation had inconvenienced him. Like this was a mistake that needed correcting. What? What did you say? I asked quietly. He blinked, as if he'd forgotten himself. The mask slid back into place almost instantly. I said, why did she eat it? He corrected, louder now, for the benefit of anyone listening. I made that for you. The words landed like a trap. I felt every gaze shift, curious, confused, suspicious. I told you I wasn't hungry, I said evenly. You insisted, I declined. His lips twitched. For a moment, I thought he might lose control again. But then sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. The sound seemed to snap him back into himself. He stepped away, lifting his hands as if he were just another helpless bystander. "I was just trying to take care of my wife," he said, voice smooth, wounded even. "I never imagined something like this would happen." I wanted to scream. Instead, I looked down at the woman on the floor. Her body had gone eerily still. Someone pressed hard against her chest. Someone else held her head to keep it from hitting the tile. Her skin had turned a frightening shade of gray, lips tinged blue. And suddenly, the fear I'd been drowning in sharpened into something colder. Anger. Because this wasn't random. This wasn't an accident. And the man standing beside me knew it. The paramedics burst in moments later, pushing everyone back. They worked fast, efficient, expressionless, like they'd seen this kind of thing before. Oxygen mask, IV line, rapid questions. One of them glanced at the container on the floor and frowned. "What did she eat?" he asked. Silence. I bent down, picked up the lid with trembling fingers, and held it out. "That!" I said. "She ate what was inside." My husband's head snapped toward me. "You didn't have to say that," he muttered. I met his gaze fully this time. "Yes," I replied softly, "I did." They wheeled her away, leaving behind a dark stain in the carpet and a silence that felt louder than the screams had. Employees stood frozen, whispering, staring at me like I was both victim and suspect. Then the police arrived. Questions came quickly. Who prepared the food? Who was it meant for? Who else had access to it? I watched my husband answer with practiced ease. I listened carefully. And when it was my turn, I told the truth. Every word of it. By the time they led him away for further questioning, his eyes finally betrayed him. Not fear, not guilt, but rage. Pure, burning rage, because the plan had failed, and as the doors closed behind them, one terrifying thought echoed in my mind. If he was willing to poison me once, he wouldn't stop here. That night, I realized survival wasn't enough. I needed to strike first. The building fell quiet after they took him away. Not peaceful quiet, but the kind that rings in your ears and makes every breath sound too loud. The paramedics, the police, the crowd of whispering faces, all of it drained out, leaving behind the aftermath. A dark stain on the carpet, an overturned chair, and the terrifying absence of answers. I was told to go home. "Get some rest," one officer said gently. Like rest could erase what I'd just seen. Like sleep could untangle the image of a body convulsing on the floor, or the memory of my husband's fingers digging into my arm. I nodded. I smiled. I did what women are trained to do when the world expects them to break quietly. But I didn't go home. Instead, I sat alone in my car in the underground parking garage. Engine off, lights dark, hands neatly locked around the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My phone buzzed once, then again, unknown number. I knew who it was before I answered. "You shouldn't have said anything." His voice came through the speaker, low and controlled. Too controlled. "You made this much worse than it needed to be." My chest tightened. "You poisoned her," I said. A pause, then a soft exhale, almost amused. "She shouldn't have eaten it." The words were so calm they were almost tender, and that was what terrified me most. I felt something inside me go cold, hard, unmovable. "That was meant for me," I said. Another pause, longer this time. "You're not as important as you think," he replied. "But you were inconvenient, Fint." The call ended. I sat there long after, staring at the black screen of my phone, realizing with sick clarity that the man I married had already justified my death. In his mind, it had been necessary, logical, clean. I drove to a hotel that night, not a luxury one, not somewhere he'd expect. I paid cash. I asked for a room at the end of the hall, and I slept with the lights on, my shoes by the bed, my phone charging in my hand. At 3:17 a.m., a notification flashed across my screen. Access attempt detected. Someone had tried to log into my personal email. At 3:19 a.m., my cloud storage. At 3:22 a.m., my bank app. I stared at the timestamps, heart hammering, and suddenly the truth snapped into focus. This hadn't been a moment of rage. It was a process, a dismantling. He wasn't just trying to hurt me, he was trying to erase me. By morning, I had made a decision. I didn't cry. I didn't call friends. I didn't collapse. I made a list. Every account, every document, every legal connection between us. I called my attorney before the sun rose and spoke 3 sentences that changed everything. I believe my husband tried to kill me. I need protection. And I need control. By noon, my financial team had frozen joint accounts. By evening, his access to company systems was terminated. And by nightfall, the house we shared was no longer legally his. I watched the confirmations roll in one by one, each alert a small, quiet reclaiming of power. For the first time since the scream, I felt something other than fear. I felt resolve. Because if he thought silence meant weakness, he was about to learn how dangerous a woman becomes when she survives. And the next time I saw him, he wasn't behind a police desk. He was standing at my front door. The knock at my door was deliberate, slow, deliberate enough to make my pulse quicken, but not so fast that it betrayed panic. I didn't flinch. I didn't call the police, at least not yet. I already had the advantage. I knew everything. He didn't. Darius stood there, hands in his pockets, forcing a calm that didn't reach his eyes. The same man who had tried to orchestrate my death now pretended to be, what? Concerned? Innocent? It was almost laughable if it weren't so terrifying. You shouldn't have done that, he said, voice low, controlled, the kind of control that masks a dangerous storm. You think you've won, but you don't know the half of it. I stepped forward, locking the door behind me. I know enough, I replied. My voice was steady, cold. I know about the poison, the lies, the mistress, the ex-girlfriend, the money, every single little thing. You tried to kill me, Darius, and now you're standing here, thinking you can intimidate me? His jaw tightened. His nostrils flared slightly. You don't understand. You don't know what it takes to run this company, to protect what's mine. I do, I interrupted. It takes integrity. It takes honor. You have neither, and every move you make from this point forward will be under my control. The board knows everything. The police know everything. Your mistress knows everything. And if you try a single thing, one tiny action, I will make sure the law and everyone else comes down on you so hard you'll wish you'd never been born. He laughed. A short, bitter laugh. You think you're safe? I leaned closer, letting the words drip like ice. Safe? Maybe not, but strong. And right now, that's enough. You can leave, or I can make the next move. One of us is going to be in control from this point forward, and it's not going to be you. For a long moment, he didn't move. The air between us was heavy with hatred, fear, and adrenaline. Then, slowly, he backed away. Not out of respect, not out of fear. Out of calculation. He knew the battle wasn't over, but he knew the next move wasn't his. I watched him go, slammed the door, and leaned against it, exhaling for the first time in 48 hours, but there was no relief. Only awareness. This war wasn't over. He had power, he had resources, and he had a mind willing to destroy anything in his path. But I had something he didn't. Truth, evidence, and the determination to survive. And then the next time we meet, I won't just be defending myself. I'll be taking everything back that he thought he could take from me. I didn't sleep after he left. Not because I was afraid he'd come back, but because I finally understood how his mind worked. Darius didn't react. He calculated. Every step he took was measured. Every word chosen for leverage, which meant his retreat wasn't surrender. It was strategy. By morning, the first move came. My phone lit up with a news alert. Montgomery Financial under internal investigation following employee poisoning. Not attempted murder, not spousal involvement, just enough truth twisted into a weapon. He was framing the narrative. Within an hour, my inbox flooded, board members requesting clarity, shareholders expressing concern. One email stood out, sent from a private address didn't recognize. You don't want this going public. Let's talk. I smiled for the first time in days, because that message told me everything. He was desperate. I forwarded it to my attorney and replied with 3 words: name the place. We met in a restaurant he used to love. Quiet, expensive, dimly lit. Neutral territory. Or so he thought. I arrived early and chose a table beneath the security camera, ordered water, turned on the voice recorder in my purse. When he walked in, he looked different, smaller. The confidence had thinned, stretched tight over agitation. He didn't sit right away. "You've ruined everything," he said. "No," I replied calmly. "I interrupted you." He finally sat, leaned in. "The investigation will tear the company apart. Your father's legacy gone. Is that what you want?" I held his gaze. "You tried to kill me." A flicker of anger, then annoyance. "You keep saying that like it matters." That was the moment I knew. I reached into my purse and placed a single document on the table. His bank statement. Highlighted. The offshore account, the transfers, the purchase order for the chemical compound, masked as lab supplies, made 2 days before the breakfast. Color drained from his face. "You've been busy," he said quietly. "Not as busy as you," I replied. "But here's the problem, Darius. You're not the one negotiating." He laughed once. Hollow. "You think this is a trap?" I leaned closer. "No! This is mercy." I stood, left the bill unpaid, and walked out without looking back. That evening, the police called. They had new evidence. Enough for an arrest warrant. I hung up and felt something settle inside me. Not victory, not joy, but calm. The kind that comes when the hunt is over, because traps only work when the other person believes they're still in control. But the arrest wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far worse for him. The next morning, I arrived at the office early. The building felt different, tense, electric. Word had spread. Something major had happened overnight. Security greeted me with nods that carried relief, as if they'd been waiting for justice to catch up. Minutes later, uniformed officers escorted Darius through the main entrance. His suit was immaculate, but his eyes were hollow, scanning the room like a cornered animal. Employees whispered, their faces a mix of fear and disbelief. He was no longer the untouchable CFO. He was a man stripped of power, exposed. Detective Williams approached me quietly. "We have enough to hold him for attempted murder, embezzlement, and conspiracy," he said. "All evidence points to premeditation. The breakfast, the financial manipulation, the communications with Dr. Patterson, everything." I watched Darius being led past my office. His gaze caught mine for a brief second, full of hatred, regret, and disbelief. I didn't flinch. 4 years of deception, betrayal, and murderous intent. And he realized finally that I had won. I turned to Maya and whispered, "Lock everything down. Make sure nothing can disappear." She nodded. "He thought he controlled the narrative. He didn't control you." As the elevator doors closed behind him, I felt a weight lift. Not just the fear, but the knowing. I was safe. My baby was safe. And Darius's empire of lies was crumbling. But even behind bars, Darius still had one last card, and I wasn't ready for what he would try next. Even behind bars, Darius wasn't done. A week later, I received a call from Detective Lopez. "Simone, we intercepted another message from him. He's trying to manipulate someone on the outside. Another employee. Someone with access to company accounts." I clenched the phone so hard my knuckles ached. I realized this wasn't over. Darius had always been cunning, always planning 2 steps ahead. But I had him on tape. I had witnesses. I had evidence that could bury him for life. I wasn't about to let him find another victim. I called Maya and Beverly immediately. "We need to purge all company access," I said. "Passwords, permissions, financial transfers, everything. If he can't touch a single thing, he can't hurt anyone else." Hours later, the IT team confirmed every single account Darius could manipulate had been locked. Emails redirected, funds frozen. He had no power, no influence, nothing. For the first time in months, I breathed. My baby was safe. Justice was moving forward. Darius would pay for every deceit, every betrayal, every attempt on my life. And for the first time, I allowed myself a small, bitter smile. But what Darius didn't know was that I had saved the most devastating move for last, and it would destroy him completely. I didn't expect the call to come from the jail. But when my phone rang and I saw the number, I knew exactly who it was. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered. "I want to talk," Darius said. His voice was different now, stripped. No edge, no confidence. Just exhaustion wrapped in arrogance that hadn't fully died yet. "You're already talking," I replied. "The court will listen." Silence. "They're turning on me?" he said finally. "The board. Your precious assistants. Even her." That caught my attention. "Her?" Another pause. Then a bitter laugh. "You think she was special? She was just useful. But she's telling them everything now, trying to save herself." I closed my eyes. The woman who had eaten that breakfast. The one whose scream still echoed in my head. "She nearly died," I said coldly. "She was never supposed to," he snapped, and then stopped. Too late. The line went dead quiet. My heart began to pound. "Repeat that," I said softly. He exhaled sharply, realizing his mistake. "I mean, it wasn't meant to be fatal. Just enough to scare you, make you step aside." I pressed the record button. "You poisoned food in my office," I said slowly. "You transferred money to buy a restricted chemical. You pressured me to eat it, and you're telling me it wasn't meant to kill." Another breath, longer this time. "I miscalculated," he muttered. There it was, the confession. Every word recorded, every pause damning. 2 hours later, my attorney had it. So did the prosecutor. By evening, the charges were upgraded: attempted murder, aggravated poisoning, conspiracy with financial fraud. No plea deal, no reduced sentence, no escape. I sat alone in my living room as the sun went down, one hand resting over my stomach, feeling the steady reminder of why I fought so hard to survive. For the first time since the scream, the future felt real again. But justice has a strange way of demanding its final payment, and Darius was about to learn that even truth has consequences. The next day, the courtroom doors opened, and I saw fear in his eyes for the first time. The courtroom was packed. Cameras, reporters, family, and curious strangers, all drawn by the scandal. Darius walked in first, flanked by his expensive lawyers, trying to look composed. But I could see it, the slightest tremor in his hands, the way his eyes darted nervously around the room. I entered after him, my lawyer Beverly by my side, evidence in hand, my baby growing stronger every day inside me. Every step Tetsme took toward the bench was a declaration. I survived, I was alive, and I wasn't afraid anymore. The prosecutor started laying out the case. Every wire transfer, every recorded conversation, every phone call, every photograph linking Darius to the poison, to Nia to the money, to Janelle's destroyed future. When they played the recording of his confession over the phone, his own words echoed through the courtroom. "I miscalculated. It wasn't meant to be fatal, just enough to scare you." Gasps, whispers. His face drained of color. He had tried to manipulate, control, and destroy. But the law and the evidence had cornered him completely. Janelle, brave despite her loss, took the stand next. She testified about the morning of the poisoning, the pain, the fear, and how Darius had attempted to take what should have been hers. The courtroom was silent. Every word she spoke cut through the pretense of Darius's carefully constructed life. By the time Bai took the stand, the judge leaned forward, watching closely. I looked directly at Darius as I spoke, calm but unflinching. "This man tried to kill me and my unborn child. He betrayed every vow, every trust, every principle. And if I had eaten that breakfast, if fate hadn't intervened, it would have been in me lying there, not her." The room held its breath. The jury scribbled notes. Darius swallowed hard, no words coming out. The power he had wielded for years had vanished in a heartbeat. The case was clear. The evidence was overwhelming. Justice wasn't just a word anymore. It was happening But the trial wasn't over yet, because what came next in court would reveal an even deeper betrayal I never saw coming. Just when I thought Darius had reached rock bottom, the prosecution dropped a bombshell. They revealed a secret offshore account, one Darius had hidden even from Nia. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, all siphoned from the company over years, intended to fund a life with her after eliminating me completely. The courtroom erupted. His lawyers scrambled to explain, but the trail of evidence was airtight: emails, bank statements, and even in handwritten notes in his office. Proof of greed, deceit, and premeditation. The judge leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Mr. Montgomery, how do you plead?" Darius opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time, he was speechless. No charm, no lies, no excuses could save him now. Then came the twist that nobody expected. The prosecution revealed Nia's final confession. She had kept silent initially, hoping to protect herself, but she admitted to helping Darius with access to the poison, confirming the full conspiracy. Her evidence was the final nail in his coffin. As Darius sat there, stripped of power, wealth, and control, I felt a mix of relief and rage. He had tried to destroy me, my baby, my company, and everyone I loved. But now he was exposed, powerless, and facing the full weight of the law. And as I looked around the courtroom, I felt a profound sense of victory, not just for myself, but for every life he had tried to ruin. Justice had finally arrived, and this time there would be no escape. But even as Darius faced his downfall, one final revelation would shake everyone to the core, because the consequences of his actions were far from over. Just when the courtroom drama seemed over, Detective Williams handed me a small envelope. Inside were photographs taken from Darius's private safe, hidden receipts, hotel records, and travel logs. It wasn't just Janelle or Nia he'd tried to manipulate. There were other women, other plans, other secrets we hadn't even known existed. Among the photos, one made my blood run cold. Darius meeting with a known black market pharmacist in a dimly lit parking garage, weeks before the poisoning. The implications were horrifying. He hadn't just planned my death, he had been systematically orchestrating similar attacks for years, targeting anyone standing in the way of his wealth and control. The judge called for order, but the evidence was explosive. Darius's face turned white, as the documents were presented. Every smirk, every arrogant glance, every lie he had told for years collapsed in front of the courtroom. He realized too late that his empire of manipulation, deceit, and murder plots had been fully uncovered. I felt the weight of everything: the betrayal, the danger, the loss, but also a strange calm. I had survived. My baby was safe. And every person Darius had tried to destroy would finally see justice. But even as the verdict loomed, I couldn't shake the feeling that Darius's reach wasn't fully severed. Because some secrets are never truly buried. The courtroom was silent as the jury returned with the verdict. Guilty. Every charge, every scheme, every attempt at murder. Darius was convicted on all counts. Relief washed over me, but it was bittersweet. The man I had loved, the man I had trusted with my life, was now a broken shell of his former self, facing decades behind bars. Janelle, Nia, and I finally felt a strange sense of closure. We weren't just victims anymore. We were survivors. Tears streamed down my face as I held the baby bump that had once been the reason for Darius's twisted plan. Life had given me a second chance, and I would protect it at all costs. As I walked out of the courthouse, surrounded by cameras and flashing lights, I felt the world shift beneath me. Darius had underestimated me. He had underestimated the power of truth, courage, and unwavering vigilance. And now finally, I could breathe again. But even with justice served, I couldn't ignore the lingering question: how many others had fallen victim to men like Darius, hiding evil behind a perfect smile? Weeks had passed since Darius was taken into custody. The company, though shaken, was stabilizing under my leadership. I implemented stricter oversight, audits, and security measures to ensure no one could ever exploit Montgomery Financial Group the way Darius had. Every morning, I walked into my office with a renewed sense of purpose and a deep gratitude for the life growing inside me. Janelle had moved back in with her mother, quietly healing from the trauma. Though she had lost her baby, she found solace in knowing the truth and that the man responsible was behind bars. Nia, too, faced justice for her part. But she cooperated fully, helping authorities uncover the full scope of Darius's crimes. Together, we had turned a nightmare into a story of survival and accountability. As for me, every glance at my belly reminded me why I had fought so hard. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting life, demanding justice, and reclaiming control from a man who thought he could manipulate fate itself. And as I prepared for motherhood, I knew one thing for certain. I would never let fear or betrayal dictate my life again. Because some battles aren't just about surviving, they're about reclaiming your power and ensuring no one ever hurts you or yours again. The courtroom battles, the investigations, the betrayals, they were all behind me now. I stood in the nursery, sunlight streaming through the window, watching my baby sleep peacefully. Every kick, every tiny movement reminded me that life had prevailed over cruelty, that love and resilience had won. Montgomery Financial Group was thriving, stronger than ever. I had rebuilt it not just as a company, but as a legacy of integrity, transparency, and vigilance. No one would ever manipulate or harm it, or me, again. I had reclaimed my power, my voice, and my life, and as I held my child close, I whispered a promise I would never break. You will always be protected. You will always be loved. And nothing, no one, will ever take that away from us. I survived a husband who tried to kill me and my unborn child, but I emerged stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. And now, I control my own destiny. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more real-life stories of courage, survival, and justice. I'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what city or country you're watching from. Your support truly means the world. Remember, trust your instincts, honor your worth, and never let anyone dim your light. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next story.